We're getting really close to closing. What does that final stretch look like on the lending side of things?
Great question, Max. So after we get the appraisal in, so we've been waiting, the week or two to get that appraisal report. We get it back, everything looks good, as is. We hit value. So at that point, I start working on your closing disclosure. So that's all the final numbers for the transaction. We like to get that out as soon as possible, and that appraisal allows us to get that out. The reason is because Regulation Z requires us to send the CD closing disclosure at least 3 days prior to you signing. So we want to get that out immediately, get that 3-day clock ticking as soon as possible. So while we're working on the closing disclosure, we're also making sure we're combing through the file one more time, making sure we've got all the borrower conditions in there that the underwriter had assigned to us, and we're sending that file back to the underwriters for final approval. So CD, final approval are kind of happening simultaneously. Usually takes a day or two for final approval to be completed. So once that's done, we're off to closing docs. So our closing team works on all the final documents that you're going to send or sign. They're going to send to the escrow team at the title company, and you're going to schedule your signing. So again, we sent that closing disclosure to you, which is that final number. But escrow does all kinds of prorations for utilities, things like that. They really dial it in, so it can be maybe pennies or dollars different from the closing disclosure. So they'll call the buyers, schedule the signing, tell them exactly how much the cashier's check needs to be made for, or wire transfer, whatever you want to do there, and go over those final details.
Cool.
Yeah. And you'll go in and sign. Typically, you sign the final docs the day before closing, so that the next day, on closing day, the docs are there at escrow. The closing team and the escrow agent, they do some balancing, wire transfer, exchange stuff. It's like magic that happens, and then we get an email that says we're funded. And at that point, I think the realtor is notified. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Escrow reaches out and lets us know that the transaction's closed, and then released to record, and that's the final communication that I usually. Yeah, at some point between there and 9 p.m., which is technically the time of possession on closing day, we get the keys to the buyers, and we're all happy. And you said earlier, rounds of high fives.